Another good, entertaining training camp practice for the 49ers here at the facility, but they've encountered some more bad news at the wide receiver position. Rookie Jordan Watkins, who had that 50-yard catch from Mac Jones here at Levi's on Saturday night, suffered a high ankle sprain in that game. He didn't start feeling it till the next day. That's when the soreness kicked in and the MRI confirmed the high ankle sprain. Jordan Watkins is going to miss about a month. So the only healthy, available starting receiver for week one, based on things right now, if Jordan Watkins does miss a month and isn't available for Seattle on September 7th, would be Ricky Pearsall, because Demarcus Robinson might be suspended for week one. In fact, I would expect that based on what the league has been doing in similar situations. So the 49ers are in a bit of a bind at that wide receiver spot. We'll talk more about some of the other possibilities later. I can tell you that Robbie Chosen, the 32-year-old veteran, made a really nice catch today in the red zone, diving catch from Mac Jones. Why don't we take a look at some of the highlights from practice? This guy right here, Trevis Gipson, had one of the best practice debuts I'd ever seen. He was right in there with the first team at edge rusher, tipped the Brock Purdy pass up into the air, and Nick Bosa intercepted it. Trevis Gipson, 11 career sacks. Talk more about him in a bit. That is Jeff Wilson Jr., looking leaner than he had been with the 49ers in the past. They traded him away to Miami in 2022 after they picked up this guy, Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey is going to be a huge part of the 49ers offense, and if they're shorthanded at the receiver position once the regular season rolls around, which is likely because this guy right here, Demarcus Robinson, might not be available for the first 2 or 3 weeks, well, the offense is going to run through Christian McCaffrey, it's going to run through George Kittle, and it will run through Ricky Pearsall. Ricky has been looking good, caught a couple more passes today, including a touchdown from Brock Purdy. And then he caught one from Mac Jones as well in red zone. And Mac Jones and Ricky Pearsall did a little dance. It was actually hilarious watching Mac Jones dance. That's Carter Bradley. 49ers waived Tanner Mordecai today. So Bradley's the third quarterback. But I will say, as you could see a quick peek there at Brandon Ayuk, I will say that Mac Jones took most of the third team reps today instead of Carter Bradley. Mac Jones was helming both the 2s and the 3s. This might have been by design, but Bradley had a horrible pitch that turned into a fumble today, and obviously he didn't play well on Saturday either. Look at the 49ers defensive linemen having a good time before the start of team drills at practice today. All right, so we're going to go through everything that happened at practice, but just addressing the receiver position and defensive end, where we saw Trevis Gipson step into play. First, we'll talk about Gipson. 11 career sacks, was the 5th-round pick of the Chicago Bears. His most recent action came with the Seattle Seahawks. Hasn't done much of anything over the course of the past 2 seasons, but in 2021, Gipson did have 7 sacks for the Bears. It's unclear why things fell off. In 2022, he had 3 sacks, and then we really haven't heard from him since. Today, he was right in there with the first team because the 49ers are shorthanded along that defensive line. Mykel Williams is going to be out for about a week with the knee hyperextension. So they've needed some edge rushing juice. And yes, Trevis Gipson gave that to them immediately at today's practice. Knocked the ball from Purdy into the air. Bosa, the pick, I still remember the game against Carolina. What was that, week 7? 49ers wearing all white retro jerseys here at Levi's Stadium. Bosa's a rookie in 2019. Tipped a pass to himself, intercepted it, and then returned it about 50 yards. Just missed scoring a touchdown. This wasn't as impressive from Nick Bosa, but Trevis Gipson did tip the ball to him. Then more on that receiver position. Jordan Watkins played a lot on Saturday, and the story with him and his performance was more complicated than just the 50-yard bomb. He ran the wrong route, and Kyle Shanahan wasn't publicly afraid of saying that he ran the wrong route on Mac Jones' interception to Jaquan McMillan. So Kyle has been very clear about Jordan Watkins' need to get some more practice in so he can eliminate some of the mistakes that obviously cost the 49ers on Saturday. But Watkins has been very good throughout OTAs and now training camp, to the point where Shanahan today also acknowledged that Jordan Watkins can help the 49ers early in this season, or at least could help the 49ers early in this season before this high ankle sprain. It's unclear what point of the game he sustained the injury at on Saturday. If it was late, because he came back into that game. They even ran a little sweep to him late in the game. So I don't know if it happened then when there was some poor blocking or if it happened earlier, because Jordan Watkins didn't start feeling the soreness until Sunday. But the bottom line is that right now he's not going to be able to practice because he's got a high ankle sprain. And the inability to practice for Jordan Watkins means that he can't make the progress that the 49ers will need to see so they can trust him early in the season. You then go back to the receiver depth chart and you understand that Brandon Ayuk is not going to be available until week 6 at the soonest. I think that's the latest that the 49ers have gleaned. We asked Kyle Shanahan about it today, and he said that that's so far out in the future, he's not even thinking about it. And he said, well, maybe week 6, but that could also mean all the way up until week 10. 6 makes sense because the first 4 weeks of the season would be off limits due to the PUP rules for Brandon Ayuk, and week 5 is a short week. It's a Thursday night game against the Los Angeles Rams. So I would think that a week 6 return just mathematically makes the most sense for Brandon Ayuk if it gets to that point and he's healthy enough to play then. So the bottom line is you're operating at the start of the season without Ayuk, likely without Demarcus Robinson, probably, I would say, if this high ankle sprain does take a month, without Jordan Watkins. Juwan Jennings, they're still calling it a calf injury. At least publicly, that's what we're hearing from the 49ers. So, and Kyle Shanahan has said that it's shown up on MRIs. So they're hoping that Juwan Jennings is back sooner rather than later. But it's obviously something that the 49ers are working around right now. So you're only looking at Ricky Pearsall as a healthy receiver for the team at this moment in time. And Pearsall's been really, really good during practice. But when you don't have counter threats at the wide receiver position, you're going to be more reliant on superstars like George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey. Can Brock Purdy still make it work? Absolutely. Can he still make it work to 30-plus points per game like they did in 2023? Probably not. And this is where the 49ers and their margin really starts narrowing, because we know that the offense is going to have a lot of pressure on it this year with the defense as young as it is. All right, here's the look at everything that happened in practice today. Today was highlighted by some returns to action. Andre Dillard off the PUP, the physically unable to perform list. He slotted in there for San Francisco at third team left tackle. This was his first practice. I would expect Dillard will get some 2 reps at some point, but today Trent Williams and Colton McKivitz were both active at practice. Williams obviously on the left side, McKivitz on the right for the first team. So the second team featured Burford and Austin Pleasance. Third team, Andre Dillard, 2019 first-round pick of the Philadelphia Eagles, who has talent, obviously has talent. That's how he was picked in the first round. Now the question is, can Andre Dillard show swing tackle adaptability and earn a 49ers roster spot with the capability of backing up both left and right tackle? Evan Anderson, defensive tackle, also returned to action for the 49ers. And that was big because this defensive line was sucking wind by the end of last week. When they practiced against Denver, they only had 6 guys available at the end of practice. It's a problem for San Francisco. They definitely need more juice on both the inside and the outside. Evan Anderson helps that at defensive tackle, and the signing of Trevis Gipson helps that on the outside. Jeff Wilson Jr. helped the 49ers at that running back position where Amir Abdullah went to injured reserve today. That was after the rib injury suffered on the play during which he fumbled against the Denver Broncos on Saturday. So that's the run through of the players who returned to practice. We also thought that we might see Jacob Cowing back. That won't be until tomorrow. So that's the good half of the Watkins equation. The bad news is obviously the rookie is hurt. The good news is the 49ers will return Cowing, who strained his hamstring during warm-ups of the very first practice of training camp. And remember, Jacob Cowing had that really promising offseason, was putting in extra work with Purdy and Mac Jones. Well, now Jacob Cowing is going to have a chance to get back out there. He hit all of his speed metrics. They measure the miles per hour coming back from the hamstring injury. And tomorrow, when the 49ers really, really need a veteran fill-in at that receiver room, Jacob Cowing is going to be back in there. The one player who won't be back this week, unfortunately, is Renardo Green. He suffered a hamstring injury just after Jacob Cowing did, and Renardo has not yet hit his speed metrics. So the MPH is not quite there for Renardo, so the 49ers are going to shelve this one for another week. That means that the top 2 cornerbacks on the 49ers practice pecking order outside of Deommodore Lenoir are now Darrell Luter Jr. and Dallas Flowers. One thing that we noticed during the game on Saturday is that Trey Brown seems to have been pushed far down the list. He was getting a lot of action with the 3rd team late in the game. So Renardo Green will come back, and then we'll see Dallas Flowers and Darrell Luter Jr. push down a peg, but that battle is going to continue. Who's going to be the 49ers' 3rd cornerback on the outside? I think that Upton Stout has the lead to be the 49ers' inside cornerback, but unfortunately his calf is still sore, so he wasn't at practice today. He probably won't be back until the joint practice against the Raiders on Thursday. One other note about the lineup, and if you guys want a 53-man roster projection, let me know in the comment section, and I might oblige you because I think it might be a really good time for one of those 53-man roster projections. Now, the 49ers have Marquise Siegel taking first-team reps at safety, and just yesterday we did a video about Marquise Siegel potentially starting. So maybe the 49ers are going to think that somebody's leaking information to me. No, I'm just using my eyes, and I'm seeing who's playing well, and I'm seeing me also utilizing my knowledge of some 49ers history and what Robert Saleh has typically liked, and taking a look at some of the moves. And I think that a traits-based safety like Marquise Siegel, who can play within himself like he did on Saturday against the Broncos, could be a good bet for the 49ers at the first team. And today, Jair Brown was back at practice. His ankle had flared up a bit last week. Jair was with the 2s. Marquise Siegel was with the 1s next to Jason Pinnock. So just a general observation there. I straight up asked Kyle Shanahan after practice if Marquise has a chance to start this year, and he said that was an impressive game on Sunday. He does have a chance. And you know, normally when you ask a head coach something like that about a rookie, they won't straight up say yes. They'll say he's still got a lot of work to do. Today, Kyle Shanahan kind of nodded his head and said, yes, Marquise Siegel has got a shot for this football team. Both of the rookie guards, Connor Colby and Drew Moss, are now firmly working with that second unit for the 49ers. So you look at, we saw in the game, I thought that Connor Colby and Drew Moss were both really solid for San Francisco. Shanahan said that he watched the tape and they were even better than he thought. PFF actually ranked them as the 49ers' 2 highest graded offensive players in that preseason opener. So, you know, this comes about a week after Chris Foerster said that Connor Colby was surprising him that he was a better pass blocker than a run blocker, which is the opposite of what his college film at Iowa might suggest, but is a good sign for his potential ability to give the 49ers some quality action early. Their entire first-team offensive line is now in place, from Williams to Barge to Brendel to Dominic Pooney to Colton McKivitz. But as we know, you need quality depth, and I think that the 49ers are very pleased with how Connor Colby and Drew Moss are progressing for this football team. So again, let me know if you want that 53-man roster projection. I think it's probably a really good time for an updated one, but I'm going to go by popular demand, so I've got to hear what the crowd wants. Talk about Jason Pinnock. He had a really nice pass breakup today. Brock Purdy over the middle going for Demarcus Robinson, and Jason Pinnock just kind of flew in from center field and swatted that ball away. We talk about traits-based safeties. That's why Robert Saleh wants them, because they could cover a whole heck of a lot of ground. And, you know, somebody like Pinnock, somebody like Marquise Siegel fits the bill. Somebody like Jair Brown, he's an anticipatory safety. He's slower than those guys. And I don't know if we've seen Marquise Siegel I don't know if we've seen Jair Brown make the type of play that we saw today from Jason Pinnock. Purdy to Pearsall was fun. Mac Jones to Pearsall was fun. Ricky is a true star in the making, and the 49ers are going to need a lot from him this year if the receiver position is as beleaguered as it looks like it's going to be. Also saw Isaac Guerendo working on the field today, going through some running back drills with a trainer. He needs a couple more weeks for his shoulder, which is hurt right now, to be able to withstand full contact. But the good news is that he can stay conditioned going through leg exercises and running, because it's not a lower body injury for Isaac Guerendo. But for the time being, guys like Keyshawn Vaughn, guys like Jeff Wilson Jr., back now with the 49ers, both of those guys are going to have to get a lot of running back snaps to get the 49ers through the rest of this preseason. I think that Corey Kiner it's a good chance to see how durable he is. He got a ton of carries the other night, 10 carries, 45 yards. It's a lot for a preseason game. Might be a similar story against the Raiders. Bosa. Seems that I'm writing his name a lot in these practice reports. Obviously caught the interception that was off the tip of Trevis Gipson, but at least 2 more times I have it down here as a Nick Bosa sack. Mainly working against Colton McKivitz, who's been looking good over the course of this training camp. But it's hard to look good consistently against Nick Bosa whenever he's lined up there, because he does seem locked in for a big year. The diving catch from Robbie Chosen that I talked about a little bit earlier, that's interesting because we got a little bit more context on Robbie, who was with the 49ers for 2 weeks, from August 12th to August 27th of last year. Then they cut him and he signed with Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins. Today, Kyle Shanahan revealed that Robbie Chosen was offered a practice squad spot, but he instead went to the Dolphins instead, because that was where a 53-man roster spot would be possible. This year, because of the situation, obviously at receiver, Robbie Chosen has a better shot to make the 49ers 53-man roster. And we've seen a deep catch from him at practice. I think that was on Thursday against the Broncos. And today we saw this excellent diving grab against Jalen Mahoney, the safety, in the back of the end zone on a nice throw from Mac Jones. That fired up the crowd, and it fired up Robbie Chosen, who, yes, is higher up on the pecking order this year. A lot more opportunity for the 49ers with all those injuries at receiver. There was a little bit of I can't even call it a scuffle. It was just a big group of guys yelling at each other. And the 2 belligerents, if you could even call them belligerents, since it wasn't a fight, but the 2 guys jawing the most were Fred Warner from the defensive side and Patrick Taylor Jr., who scored the 49ers touchdown the other night on the offensive side. We know from history, the first instant reaction that I ever did coming off the practice field was in 2022 when Fred Warner and Brandon Ayuk fought. That was the marquee matchup, heavyweight battle, right? But we know that Fred Warner likes antagonizing offensive players during this practice. He says that it's a motivational technique. I don't know if he was doing that with Patrick Taylor Jr., but they were chirping at each other back and forth, and it drew a big crowd. I do have to shout out to Patrick Taylor Jr. He might not be the fastest running back. He might have had some struggles in the pass game last year. I haven't seen a drop from him in a couple weeks now, after I brought it up during one of these updates. And the run that he had for a touchdown was a really good one the other day. Talanoa Hufanga, I've talked about it on a couple lives. Hufanga plugged the hole where that run was supposed to go, and Patrick Taylor Jr. bounced it outside toward the pylon and scored the touchdown for the 49ers. As Tim Ryan said on the TV broadcast, that's a running back who knows what he's looking at. And Patrick Taylor Jr. has now been here for over a season. You would expect that added comfort, and the 49ers absolutely need that added comfort. Another pass breakup for Chase Lucas. He obviously had some big plays in the game on Saturday. Today he was working against Junior Bergen, who's fielding a lot of punts for the 49ers. Then there was a completion late in practice from Brock Purdy to DeMarcus Robinson. So we will be back out here tomorrow. Then we fly to Vegas. And on Thursday, I'm going to cover the 49ers practice against the Raiders. San Francisco's in a very interesting spot right now. They're still going to do the practice, even though they have a lot of injuries. They feel they really need the practice for their younger players. But needless to say, they want to get healthier, and they want to get healthier quick. They returned or saw 4 new bodies at practice today. They still have a couple more to return with Jacob Cowing and then Renardo Green. I guess that's pushed back until next week. But the addition of Jordan Watkins to the injury report is a tough blow for the 49ers, working through these dog days of August. Hit the notification bell, hit the subscribe button. Another helmet reaction here. These are fun. Another one coming tomorrow.